Tell us about insurers and your company in these times of COVID.
Are you there, Josh?
Well, it is kind of unfortunate that we only become aware of the importance of health protection during a pandemic. But as an Insurtech company, we are really glad that we have been able to stay relatively unscathed in terms of pandemic disruptions. We've been able to maintain smooth operation, and growth have been quite good.
So tell me something, being in these times of COVID, it means that people have been more concerned about healthcare. So health insurance has been key. Have you seen any other kind of add-ons to that, bolt-ons as a result of people taking that type of insurance out?
Well, as you know, Bowtie is a virtual insurance company. We operate solely online. We have no agents. So during this time, I think people are spending a lot more time at home, and they have more access to their own personal computers. And what we have seen is that we have been growing on a 30% month-on-month basis in the past year. And so in terms of growth and in terms of interest, in terms of protection, I think we've been doing really well.
Do you think the authorities here have been doing enough to protect the economy, to stop it from really falling back after a very, very difficult year, of course, with protests before here as well?
It has been a difficult year. I think on balance, in terms of dealing with the COVID, I feel a lot more comfortable in Hong Kong now than I would be in other places, in some of the Western countries. I think we have been able to manage, but unfortunately, we are seeing a new wave of COVID coming to Hong Kong. But what we are talking about, we are looking at about 100 new cases per day, which is not huge compared to a lot of other places. But I think we could be doing better in terms of finding a proper balance between controlling the virus and as well as maintaining steady growth in the economy.
And one of the ways you grow the economy is by fostering talent. And, Singapore's often held up as being really the home of fintech in this part of the world. Is Hong Kong doing enough to foster talent in fintech, in your view?
Well, I think, in fact, nowadays, for me in Hong Kong, calling my neighbor is just as easy as for me to call somebody in Russia. So I don't think it's a matter of really just growing talents in your own locality. I think what we need to do is to look around the world and see where all the talents are. But in fact, Hong Kong has quite a good supply of local talents. For example, the two founders of Bowtie are both Hong Kong gentlemen, and they've been doing really well. And I'm seeing a lot of startups in Hong Kong with local talents in this technology space as well.
You talk about talent, John. I mean, with workers expected to, I guess, work from home now, the chase for talent, the hunt for talent becomes even more competitive.
Oh, definitely. And we are all looking for talents. But I think a lot of the companies, what they need to do is to build in a mechanism where they could train the people, train their own employees. And that needs to be a continuous function in a lot of the companies nowadays, rather than relying on a university education. Because in many ways, university education is something that needs to be totally reformed to accommodate the needs of the 21st century.
Talk to us about your growth plans. There's a lot of potential when it comes to the Greater Bay Area. What are your plans there? What's the strategy?
we are keeping an open mind, and we are concentrating on the protection gaps here in Hong Kong right now. We are a startup of 1 year, but obviously we're keeping an open mind. And the Greater Bay Area obviously is of interest to us. It has 10 times our population, but is mainly policy-driven area. So we need to get a lot more regulatory certainty before we really can delve into that area. But in this region, we can also look into the whole ASEAN region with about 300 million population. And that is also a fertile ground for a virtual insurance company like Bowtie.
Where in particular do you see opportunities in the ASEAN region? I mean, Indonesia, possibly the biggest market out there.
For example, I think the Philippines is of great interest to us. The insured population is not huge, and we have a good connection through that 100 to 200,000 domestic helpers that we have in Hong Kong, and I'm sure a lot of them would like to access that protection for their families at home as well.
John, are you planning to buy a property anytime soon? In Hong Kong?
In Hong Kong, you mean? Well, let's look at the price. I think in Hong Kong, people are always interested in acquiring property. And if there should be a downturn in the economy, it should become a very interesting market for a lot of us.
And very, very quickly, Jonathan, why is the company called Bowtie? Because in Hong Kong, it has a quite different connotation, referring to a previous chief executive. And it must be a big challenge trying to get that across.
It has nothing to do with Donald. It's Bowtie because our founders truly believe that people only wear bow tie at very special occasions. And in those occasions, like weddings or birthdays and so on, graduations and so forth. And in those occasions, we think of our loved ones, and we want to make sure that they are all well protected.